Good. Oh my God! Gotta get comfortable. Sort of good. Okay. I'm gonna take off my mask because I can't sign fast enough. But for the deaf community to read my lips. Yes. Okay. Yes. We're gonna go. Let's see. Once again, I took off my mask so that the deaf community can read my lips because I can't sign fast enough. But you should be practicing good social distancing and wearing a mask, please, because like it's the friggin' apocalypse right now. But we're here to do reviews. Cancel Santa. I don't know what that is, Jacob. Let's see here. So we've got any pop culture news before we dive in. It's a big week in comics. We're sorry it was late, but we finally got them all. But oh my God, is it a big week? No pop culture news that you can think of?
Michael Keaton's going to be in the new continuous Batman in the movies universe.
Oh, Michael Keaton is being casted as Batman? It's animated, right?
It's going to be him and his Batman from like Batman.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Robert Pattinson's Batman will be hurt.
Oh, that's right. So there's going to be... Okay, got it. Okay, so that's dope.
WandaVision starts next week.
Yeah, WandaVision next week. WandaVision next week, so can't wait for that. Let me move the Facebook thing over here so it's better. Okay, let's just dive in. First book of the week is Wells, Segovia, and Curiel, and we're talking about Hellions. Now, Hellions, Jake, I don't want to talk about that, Jacob, on stream. Hellions, I would call it the D list of all of the X books. We haven't really bonded with it. It hasn't really been that memorable of a team. But I will say this issue took me by surprise. First of all, the art is great. The art is always great on these. But we've got some of the new Hellions have been reborn after losing their fight and dying in the other world. So they've changed a bit. Two of them being Wildchild and what's the egg? What's the egg guy's name? I can never remember his name. They're not very memorable characters. But as far as episodes are, I mean, not episodes. I think of comics as episodes. As far as comics are concerned, this issue in particular was really amazing and kind of riveting. I was on the edge of my seat. They pulled a couple fast ones, and I was kind of surprised at the storyline. So if you're waiting to jump in on Hellions for something good to happen, I think you finally got your wish, and you should probably go pick up this issue in particular. Yeah, so don't skip on that. Next is X Factor. Now, Williams, Baldia, and Silva. The X Factor team I've liked quite a bit more, but I'm kind of Polaris is there, and I'm kind of a Polaris fan. And then we've got a Wolverine's son, Daken. I'm gonna say Draken because I'm gonna get him mixed up with Power Ranger stuff. Anyways, hi, Relly. But it's like I like this team a lot more, but they haven't really been defined as to what they were going to be. They just got like a cool location on Krakoa, which is like a giant tower, and we weren't sure where they were going with it. Well, it turns out that where they're going is they're going to be the police investigation force of Krakoa that are going to be investigating like stuff that happens in both Krakoa and Earth. So they're the mutant cops. I'm cool with it. We haven't defined that yet. We've got special forces teams and stuff. But we haven't had that. So it's cool. They flesh out quite a bit more. And I'm really kind of on the edge of my seat with where this is going. They're investigating the death of, I want to say Siren. And, things are not quite as what they seem. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Come check it out. Next is Nikienza, Garni, or Mia. Oh, can we just say something about Hellions real quick? There is one point where one of the team is down and they say legitimately, is it the Healing Gardens or the Hatchery for you? Oh. It's the Hatchery. It's like, wow. Yeah. I'm telling you, like what Hickman has done is he's essentially made like a living roguelike in the comics universe out of like the X-Men titles. Because they can die and be reborn and do things again and
like out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere. It's so good. Yep. Next, sold out. Pretty sure we're sold out. You can double check. You can double check. Maybe I'm mistaken. Nikenza, Garni, and Mia. That is Juggernaut, and this is actually the wrap up. Now, Juggernaut has been running around with a mutant gal named D-Cell, she refuses to go to Krakoa. For whatever reason, there's some kind of mutant angst there. So he's been running around with her, and he's been trying to sort of redeem himself. And I've had a really, really, really good time with this series. But this is all going to wrap up, and we're going to finally figure out what happens to D-Cell, and we're going to figure out what happens to Juggernaut. And I have to say that he's kind of been inspired by what Krakoa does by the end of this. And I like that. I like that. I've really, really grown to love Kane throughout this series, way more than I ever thought I would. And they totally humanized him. And I think they did everything. They checked all the right boxes. This is a redemption arc that nobody knew they wanted, but now that we've got it, it's kind of beautiful. So I've loved it. And if you've been on board with this Juggernaut stuff, I think that wrap up will not disappoint you. Can somebody have me my drink real quick? I'm sorry. Thank you, dude. Sorry, folks. I got to keep the throat going. Next is Eternals, and I have like 4 of these in this stack, but this one is mine because it's the Alex Ross cover, and I made sure to order it before FOC a month and a half to 2 months back, which everyone should do. We encourage you to do that so we have comics for our shelves. But let's talk about this. It's Eternals #1. What are we going to get in this Eternals, Cam?
40 covers. A bunch of variants.
Yes, but we already know there's a certain villain in play, and we're not going to spoil it for you if you haven't read, but the villain for the story has already been announced. Meanwhile, if you don't know the Eternals were a Jack Kirby creation. I always forget. New Gods came after the Eternals, right? He did the Eternals and then jumped ship to DC and birthed the New Gods, correct?
Yeah.
I need to get my own timeline straight. But what I can say is if you don't know the Eternals are very godlike figures whose names they confuse for the Roman gods. So like Zorus becomes Zeus, and Mercutio becomes Mercury. And then Icarus with a K is obviously Icarus. So they're taking like all of those names, and like the humans themselves have confused it in the Marvel universe and seen them as gods. Now, are they godlike figures? Yes, they have like powers like gods. They do their own things. They do seem very Roman godlike. What they're fighting is what are they called? The abominations, the deviations. Deviations. The abnormals. I can't remember their actual name. They have an actual name. But they look for deviations. Things that aren't supposed to be. The more, I guess, ugly and sinister things is what they hunt. And meanwhile, this one in particular is going to turn out to be a murder mystery. Somebody gets killed who shouldn't be able to be killed. So that's all you need to know. That's setting the stage. Is the art great? Yes, the art was magnificent. My God, was the art good. If you're going to do a #1 and you need good art, this is the way to do it. The storyline's pretty good. It centers around Icarus and Sprite, and they've sort of got to figure out, the mystery of what's going on, and I can't spoil it beyond that, but it's super interesting. If you haven't been too into the Eternals, which I have not, I confess, I've read some of the Jack Kirby stuff, not a lot, but I was super interested after reading this, and I think it'll hook you too. So it's a good #1. Don't skip it. Don't skip it at all. Come pick it up. Next is maybe my pick of the week for Marvel. Pretty close. Not quite, but super close. And that is Al Ewing, Juan Cabal, and Federico Blee. And that is Guardians of the Galaxy issue number. What issue is this? 10? 10. Man, we need to talk about this. Is this a null tie-in? Yes, this is a null tie-in. But we saw last time. So first of all, Peter Quill fell through a black hole, and everybody assumed he was dead. But what he was really transported to was another universe, and he was there for 150 years, something like that. Meanwhile, he was retooling the element gun and changing it and sort of like making it more powerful and trying to understand it better. He was also trying. Could you read our sign, please?
I did.
Oh, okay. As long as you're cool.
No.
Oh yeah. What's up, man? How you doing?
Okay.
I haven't seen you in a minute. It's hard to recognize you with masks and stuff. So he fell through. He lived there for 150 years. He retooled the element gun. And on top of that, he's been changing himself. He's been absorbing powers of the Roman pantheon gods, which is going to be a problem. They're probably going to want their powers back. And that's where this picks up. But for the first time, I think, ever, we actually see Star-Lord become an actual Star-Lord, which I can't remember any time that's ever been, like, real. Not taken literal, but in this instance, it is literal, and he might actually be a secret weapon against the King in Black. We're going to have to wait and see it. I'm not going to spoil it beyond that, but you need to check this out. What's my favorite externals cover? Clearly, totally the Albatross, without a doubt. Secret variants. We got a one per store variant. I don't know if we got any of the secret variants. I don't think so. I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, so as far as Guardians books are concerned, this one was amazing. Amazing. I couldn't put it down. There is a null monologue in the middle of this that kind of gets cut off with a Quill monologue that is amazing. Seeing Peter Quill in this form, we've never seen him quite this powerful, and that is a sight to see. As far as Guardians books are concerned, this was top tier. This was, granted, written by Al Ewing, but I was gonna say this almost rivaled some of the Immortal Hulk stuff on the shelf right now. Same writer, go figure. Don't skip it. Don't skip it. Don't skip it. Almost my pick of the week, right friggin' there. Man, Miles Morales, issue number 22. This is the Aliens variant. I'm going to show it off because if you don't know, the Aliens franchise got bought by Marvel. So we're going to see them hopefully in the Marvel universe, but we're for sure going to see them on covers. On March. This issue in particular centers around Miles and Starling. Starling, if you don't know her, she's kind of a newer character. Turns out she's the Vulture's daughter? Yeah, daughter. I was trying to figure out daughter or granddaughter. He is that old, you know. And she's kind of been an on and off again, sort of here and there, exchange kisses kind of love interest for Miles. I like her as a character. I have loved the Miles storylines. I will say the writing's pretty good. The art, I did not like the art at all. Something about this art felt like a Marvel action story, so it felt like it was like a kid's Marvel story, which granted, it's Miles. Miles is aimed at a younger audience, but the art from the other Miles issues up until this point have been amazing. They've just been gorgeous pieces of like work where you could take any panel and like frame it and put it on your wall and be proud of it forever. And this just felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. It wasn't my jam. I don't know what happened. They swapped out the artist, and I'm not feeling this particular flavor. Kind of a shame. So pick it up, thumb through it before you decide if you want it, I would say. See if the art sells you on it. Next is McCreary, Glass, and Nestorenko, and we're talking about Last Witch. This is on the Boombox imprint, and this storyline is, well, it's a witch's tale, and I have a sneaky suspicion that while tracking a witch, the main character is going to find out they're a witch. We all kind of sort of see that coming. It starts out like a fairy tale. It's a town where they can't go too far. If they go too near a tower, there's an evil witch that might get them. And lo and behold, kids that get too close start disappearing. It's a little tropey, I will say that. But the dialogue was great. The art was great. On top of that, a couple of these variants are Peach Momoko works, so they're going to go up in value for sure. I was not fully committed to this story because it feels a little dialed in so far, and I can almost predict what's happening. But I'm waiting to see how it plays out. I've been surprised before, so we'll wait and see. I'd say give it another issue. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pick this up. I absolutely think you should. I just say give it another issue. You really have to like the Boombox stuff, and that tends to be aimed at like younger females usually. So I would say pick it up, check it out, see if you like it. For the kids, for the tweens. For the tweens. Next is Alien. This is an Aliens variant of Spider-Woman. We need to talk about the beautiful mess that is Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman as a brand. Well, the first issue was kind of explosive. I really, really loved it. And then things got a little bit boring. There were a couple issues that were sort of dialed in a little slower. And then all at once her family showed up and the world exploded. We've got Octavius is in what's her, she's Octavia. Octavia. She's in play. There's quite a few other characters in play. Her family's in play. There's not
Her family's crazy.
Her family's crazy. Meanwhile, she's trying to figure out a cure. At the same time, it puts her on the kind of a collision course with War Machine. There is a giant, beautiful, gorgeous mess wrapped in an amazing. The art is just brilliant. The story. Keep in mind when I say it's a mess, it's all over the place. It's crazy, but that doesn't mean it's boring. I'm not having a bad time with this by any means, but there's no other way to describe it, is there? It's like a book written by a chaos god, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Especially the last
So-
issue. The last issue was crazy.
This one's just as crazy. Just as crazy. It's honestly like they took a bunch of action figures in a box and threw them against the wall, and whatever stuck, that's what they were using for that issue. So I'm not bored in the least, but I gotta say it's a wild ride. So we'll have it. Next is Blum Oswald. That's Patton Oswalt. Hepburn and Lopez, and we're talking about MODOK Head Games 2, or as this issue points out, a giant evil Funko Pop. That's really what they call him in this issue. I'm not kidding. The humor of Patton Oswalt runs deep in this, and it is not boring whatsoever. I laughed a couple times, chuckled to myself a couple times. You know, it's like reading a sitcom, but in the Marvel universe. Granted, there are a couple of surprises here and there. Him fighting alongside Tony Stark at one point, and the surprise on the last page, which I'm not going to spoil it, but if you know a certain character that is sort of like another certain character that can break the fourth wall, you might know who I'm talking about. And if you only know him from the MCU, you're going to assume the wrong one. That's all I'm going to say. They're involved. So yeah, check it out. It's great. It was great. Next is Rat Queens, issue number 24. I love these covers. And we need to talk. Rat Queens it's essentially a Dungeons and Dragons campaign ran by it's all women on the team, and they're perpetually drunk or drugged, partying and sleeping with random people in the story. Meanwhile, just plain murder hobo to everything and just killing everything when they have to. I love the Rat Queens so much. It is the most beautiful D&D campaign that should be. It's so good. I love all of these characters. There's never anything boring. The art is always great, literally always great. And this story in particular, well, there is an old villain that has come back to haunt them after they've sort of spent the night partying a little too hard. And I think that party was actually the Halloween thing. That I don't think we've had one since then. So I think it was a Halloween thing. But some of them have been trying to be sober, and it's not always working out. Anyways, that's where it picks up. It's awesome, and I feel like everyone should be reading Rat Queens. And really, I'm going to say Rat Queens is my indie pick of the week for this week. So, yeah, come pick it up. It's awesome. They are literally running from D20s at one point. Yeah. Next is Scott Anadito Leone, and honestly, this is another book that is a close pick of the week. This is Star Wars: The High Republic. Oh God, it's so good. Takes place before Phantom Menace. How long before? We're not entirely sure. There is a young Yoda in play. I will tell you that. There are like quite a few new Jedi Masters, to include one whose lightsaber seems to resemble a scimitar. And I think he's Trandoshan, the lizard guys. I can't remember the name. Trandoshan. I think he's that brand. He's that guy right there. And a couple new Padawans. It's really really awesome. They seem to be setting the stage for a lot of good Jedi space opera stuff. It's great. This first issue in particular, you do get to see a Padawan rise to the rank of Jedi Knight, doing something selfless. I wasn't bored at all, and there's a lot of moving pieces in play. So I think they're setting the stage for something brilliant with. And they've kind of got a blank slate, right? Without the expanded universe being a part of the regular universe, they could go anywhere with this, and we have no idea where they're going to go. So don't skip it. It's awesome. As far as Star Wars books are concerned, it might have been a close second to my favorite of all the Star Wars books on the shelf right now. I'm still going to say Vader wins for the best opening, but this is a close second, so don't skip it. Operation Starlight, the Rebel Code. We're talking about Sewell, Basildua, and Rosenberg. Star Wars, issue number 10. Now, yes, we all want to know what's up with Luke and the Sentinel lightsaber. We all want to know what's going on with that, what happens in between Empire and Jedi. I get it. But this issue in particular is going to center around Lobot, of all things, and that droid they were trying to get to unlock an ancient language, and everything that's going from there. You do get to see a squadron that I don't know anything about, and I'm assuming is new, the Starlight Squadron. Do you guys know anything about the Starlight Squadron? Okay, cool. Total blank slate, I think. I'm a giant, what would you say, vestibule of Star Wars knowledge, and I have no idea who the Starlight Squadron are. So, we get that. We also get, I've never really seen Lobot quite used like this, which was kind of interesting. And there, again, a couple twists and turns. More importantly, you have to understand that this is the first time ever we've seen C-3PO hatch a plan. It's weird. It's weird. But we do not, in this issue, get any of Luke running around with the Sentinel Saber, so the cover is very misleading. I'm sorry to have to break that to you. We're not getting to that quite yet. But it's coming. We all know it's coming down the pipe, so I'd say don't skip this still. Next is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're talking about Belair, Lambert, Genolette, and Angulo. This is the Joss Whedon Ring of Fire arc, and honestly, this is asking a what if. What if there were a Slayer so disenfranchised that they became a Dark Slayer that started murdering Watchers with a Dark Watcher? Now, we've seen similar stuff before with Faith. Faith has been a Dark Slayer before, but never quite on this level. And I'm not even fully sure that's where they're going with this. But it was super interesting to see. Yeah. So I can't spoil it beyond that. There's going to be a couple twists and turns. More importantly, we do see how Anya becomes the vengeance demon that she was. And honestly, we've seen that story before. They didn't change it too terribly much. It was kind of fun. So yeah, don't skip on that at all this week. Next is a book that was awesome. Really, really awesome. I mean, ridiculously awesome. We need to talk about this. Valkyries. So the return of the Valkyries. We know now there's going to be more than one Valkyrie. It's not just going to be Jane Foster with the all weapon, but it picks up with her trying to take a certain someone's soul to Valhalla. Whose soul could that be after King in Black?
Too soon. Talk about
The Sentry is dead. The strongest. Well, I don't. The Hulk is certainly stronger than the Sentry in his current form, at least the Devil Hulk form. Maybe not Savage right now, but Devil Hulk form I think would be. But neck and neck would have to be the Sentry. And Sentry, he's died. He died to Null, and like 2 seconds into King of Black got ripped apart. Well, his soul needs to be ferried across, and there might be problems. If you take the soul of one of the most powerful Marvel characters to the other side, people might try and poach that for the sheer power of it. So that's where it picks up, and we're going to see other Valkyries jump into the fray, and it's pretty good. As far as openings go, I was not bored at all. I'm fully on board for this. And the art was pretty good, but that was the one point where I was like, it's pretty good. It's not top tier like I want for a number one, but it's pretty good. The cover is beautiful though, and the story was outstanding. I really think if you're gonna like build on a mythos for something, this is the way you do it. So yeah, good showing.
First appearance too.
First appearance,
Yeah,
yes.
there's a first appearance.
There's a first appearance in it. Next is Knock 'em Dead. This is Elliot Rahal, Matty and Monaco. And this centers around a stand-up comedian who may or may not have been killed and may or may not have just died outside of dying on stage. Meanwhile, there's some weird stuff there. He might not still be the same person he was, but I will say, as far as like getting the stand-up comedy scene correct and how painful it can be when you die on stage, the issue number 1 got it perfectly right. Issue number 2, well, the comedian who used to die on stage is suddenly a success. And it doesn't seem quite right. Something might be off. So it's not fully explained, and it's kind of fun to see. So I've been having a good time with it, and I want to know where Aftershock's going with it. So yeah, issue number 2, don't skip it. Keep in mind, I have to read all of these really, really fast. So like that issue in particular, I wanted to go back and reread. So that should tell you something. Next is the alien variant of Thor. Can I just say, of all the alien variants, this one's not like this one's my least favorite.
I didn't like that one either, but I still got it.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, Thor's bashing the skull of an alien. Okay, why not? I will say we did not get any of our Thor issue number 11A covers. None of them showed up. We don't know why. Diamond Comics has dropped the ball once again because their comeback is bigger than their setback. But what does this issue center on? Well, we know that Donald Blake is killing Thors. We know that now. And meanwhile, Thor is a bit lost and going to find ally in a certain Asgardian legend, a certain Norse legend centering around a chaos god that is somewhat small in stature. So if you know your Norse mythology, you might know who that is. Meanwhile, Donald Blake, well, he's a bastard. Yeah, former Thor is an absolute bastard. And we need to get to the bottom of this. The surprise of this will really hop out at you. That's what I'm going to say. The twist at the end is really going to leap out at you. And that's all I'm going to say. I cheered quite loudly because I love this character. You will too if you know the Thor mythos. So don't skip on it whatsoever. If you can find an A cover, I don't know what happened with Diamond, but we've got variants. Next, from the pages of Dark Knight's Death Metal, that's Generation Shattered. So we're getting into the DC titles now. We're going to do these out of order. Let's not do these out of order. Let's start with something else. All right. So Dark Knight's Death Metal, Snyder, Capullo, Clapion, and Placencia. This is the final issue of Dark Knight's Death Metal. We saw in the last issue that the lasso of truth was melted down and was infused into Wonder Woman. And we saw Wonder Woman become a god. What? She's already a god. Wonder Woman become a god? Full blood god? She's not a blood god. But we saw her get on the same level as the Batman who formerly laughs. I don't know. Bathattan, what are we calling him? And decided to take him on and fight him for the fate of the universe. And this is going to change everything. I'm going to tell you right now, this is my pick of the week. The reason being, it changes literally everything. It takes the original idea for the multiverse and the dark multiverse and explodes it in a million directions. On top of that, the fallout from this is going to be wild. I can't spoil too much of it, but what I will say is that everything counts. DC has now united all of its continuity, all across the board, into the weirdest way. And I loved it. Again, Snyder's done something magical here. Wasn't bored. But I'm a huge, giant DC fanboy. So you got to take my opinion with a grain of salt. But I loved it, the way this got wrapped up. And it began with a certain military character, a certain one that I happen to like now. Yogi happens to like. And it's going to end with him, too. And I think that that's very, very fitting. So, Yes, yes. It was awesome. Beautifully written, well executed. Granted, the ending, I was just as tense as I was for the original Metal ending, but I knew after that original Metal ending with how close the universe came that if Snyder was going to do it again, it was going to come that close. So even though I was right there, it wasn't quite as tense because you know. One thing that I'm going to spoil for all of you right now is there is a moment where the crows who are dressed, they're basically former Robins and other children of the DC universe that have been brainwashed into being crows, but they're dressed as Robins. What would you unleash on a group of Robins? What do you think is the one villain you should unleash on a group of Robins? There is a dual crowbar wielding Joker grinning from ear to ear in this. It's
that's horrible.
I didn't want to laugh, but I did. I laughed hysterically. Oh man, that's messed up. It was amazing. So again, don't skip it. Don't skip it. Pick of the week for sure. DC pick of the week for sure. Now, Marvel pick of the week. I probably should have picked that. I don't think we've gotten to it yet. We're in the middle. Nope, we haven't got to it yet, so we'll get there. Next is Generation Shattered from the pages of Dark Knight's Death Metal, yes. This is basically, we're going to take a bunch of heroes from different times in the DC universe and put them together. Obviously, you can tell there's Sinestro there, and there's the OG original Batman from the 30s there. Several others. It's going to be a good showing all around. Wasn't bored. When you buy this, you are essentially getting a giant trade paperback story. And I will say, yeah, it's kind of a loose excuse for using all these characters as a team. But anytime you get Adam Strange appearing next to the OG Batman, appearing next to Sinestro in a Lantern Corps outfit, it's just weird and just a good excuse for fun. So I'm interested. I think that if you have to pick books this week, pick up The Future State. If that bankrupts you, then pick that up. I would say it's a good book, but it's not as good as the Future State stuff, which is nice to say. Next is the next Batman. Now, this centers around Tim Fox. Tim Fox is the lesser known of the Fox family kids. He's essentially a blank slate. We don't know too much about him. He's Luke Fox's brother. That's about it. He is going to be taking the mantle of Batman, but he's not going to be going by Tim Fox. It turns out he's going by Jace Fox, which is a much cooler name, actually. I'm okay with that. And he's hanging out in Gotham, sort of handling his stuff. Now, you're not just going to get his story. His story is good, and I can't talk too much about it without spoiling it, but it has a very... I mean, the action sequences felt perfect. They felt exactly like a Batman that I had grown up with. So it was written perfectly. The art was just gritty enough for a good Batman story. I loved it, and I was on the edge of my seat, but I can't talk too much about it without spoiling it. So let's just say it's a good opener for a Batman, and you should not skip it. The other stories I need to talk about are in this as well. There is another story, wasn't super invested in it, centers around the Arkham Knights, and they're fighting a big mythical bad guy who's controlling all of Gotham called the Magistrate. I don't give a crap about the Arkham Knights. I'm just going to say it right now. The story wasn't boring. I've had an okay time with it, but I don't care about Miss Arkham very much at all. Maybe somebody out there does, whatever. The second story, however, was way into. Granted, I don't hide that I'm a huge Duke Thomas fan. It was Duke Thomas and Katana, and there's a surprise appearance of a certain mentor of Duke Thomas and Katana's at one point.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but it was very shocking. I loved it. I was screaming about that second story. I was pretty happy about the first Batman story, too. Wasn't bored with that at all, but the fact that I got a bonus story in there was amazing. Don't skip this issue at all. At all. If Dark Knight's Death Metal wasn't my pick of the week, this and the other Superman book we're going to go over would be neck and neck for my pick of the week. Next is Future State, The Flash, and okay, we need to talk about it. This art has a very Justice Society of America feel to it. It felt a bit old timey. Makes sense, I guess. You've got a lot of different Flashes in play here, and some of them go back. Well, you can tell by the headgear and some of the characters who they are. But I wasn't bored whatsoever. I will say, I gotta tell you guys, if you can't tell from the cover, Wally West is the villain. Again, I'm getting tired of people kicking my man Wally these days, man. It seems like everybody kicks him. Like Heroes in Crisis, and then like the Dark Multiverse, making him sort of a slave to the Dark Multiverse. Him getting brainwashed in Dark Knight's death metal. Like, God, leave Wally alone already. Come on. Okay, is it a good Flash story? Yes, it's a great Flash story, and it has a very old-timey Flash story type feel. So I wasn't bored whatsoever, and I was kind of intrigued by the art, even though it caught me off guard for a Future State title. So don't skip it. Although, yes, if you're a Wally West fan like me, you might be a little bummed out to find out he's kind of the villain. But you can tell it from the cover, okay? They're just kicking Wally these past couple years have been bad for Wally. Next is Future State Harley. This is Phillips DeMeo and Bon Villain. This is, honestly, it's weird. I hate to say it, but like the art to me felt like anime art. Like it was like a Harley manga. That's what it felt like at times. And it's very futuristic. I wasn't bored about it. But I will tell you that as far as issues number ones are concerned, there wasn't enough action in it. They're setting the stage for Harley to do something great for Gotham, but it seems like there was a lot of dialogue and not a lot of action. Okay, as an opener, it's okay. Really, you kind of want to lead off with your best punch though when you got an issue number one, and then do the filler, the backstory stuff as it goes into the other issues. But okay, it was pretty good. If you're a Harley fan, I don't think you'll be disappointed. They're setting the stage for something bigger. But if you want something as explosive as this cover, this issue's not quite it. It was okay at best. So next is Future State, Superman of Metropolis, and this is Lewis Easton, Timms, Hammer, Delandro, Oeming, Ilteb. I can never pronounce that dude's name or person's name. I don't know if it's Martin Louise, featuring Jonathan Kent, Guardian, and Mr. Miracle. Now, this is something to talk about. First of all, the original story centering around Jonathan Kent, Superboy, was pretty awesome. He's kind of dealing with a sort of tied construct of Brainiac, part of Brainiac, I guess they're calling brain cells, and he's doing something with Metropolis, trying to save it, and it might backfire and blow up in his face. Meanwhile, poor old Kara got herself caught in the middle of it, and that kind of pits her at Jonathan Kent at some point. It's good. It's a good opener. It was fun. There was plenty of action. Was not bored. The art was really, really good on the first story. The second story, however, centers around Mr. Miracle, but this is the Mr. Miracle that is Shiloh Norman. I don't know enough about Shiloh, I confess. As far as like Mr. Miracle characters are concerned, I was super intrigued by this opening, but I don't know the character all that well. I actually only know Free. So yeah, it was a new one. I was super interested in it. The art was a bit gritty, but it definitely kind of felt like a modern version of sort of Kirby-inspired styles. It was like a modern classic is what it felt like. And the last story is centered around the Guardian, and frankly, I don't care about the Guardian whatsoever. So it seems like these books seem to be 2-hit stories and one miss. If somebody wants sort of discount Gotham Captain America that is Guardian, you might like it. Do you guys like Guardian?
Guardian?
Yeah.
I really don't know. He's showing up in the other history of the DC Universe #2.
Oh, okay. I don't know that character all that well, and I've never much cared for him. So, but again, really, really good opener. Had a great time. I was honestly on the edge of my seat. Oh, there's another book here that would have been tied with the next Batman and Superman of Metropolis. It's not this next one, but we'll talk about this. This is Swamp Thing, and so we need to discuss this Future State stuff because they're not all on the same timeline. They're not all in the same, maybe part of the multiverse. They might be all separate. This one centers around a rather apocalyptic future where most of mankind has vanished, and Swamp Thing has figured out how to make living Swamp Thing people roaming around, and they're trying to find the last remnant of humanity. So, yeah, go from there. Yeah, it was kind of dope. It was a really, really good opener. Now, the art, we need to discuss the art. The art is super gritty, but if you know Swamp Thing as a character and you know the style of art that they tend to favor for Swamp Thing, you will feel perfectly at home with this. This is like the Namor scenario, you know? Swamp Thing has his own certain type of gritty style. John Constantine has his own type of gritty style. Namor has his own type of gritty style. So if you know Swampy, you will absolutely love this, and they're setting the stage for something where they could just go anywhere. So yeah, it's gonna go in weird ways. And oddly enough, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like reading like a Swamp Thing version of Conan at times. Sort of. I mean,
Blood trees. Blood trees.
they were sort of roaming around and dealing with the locals, which are all sort of birthed of Swamp Thing. But at the same time, like on a quest to find the remnants of humanity, it felt like a quest story. So it was kind of cool. So anyways, don't skip it. It's good. Next is the last of the Future State books. They are coming out this week. And God, that cover really is gorgeous. Really is gorgeous. And we're talking about Wonder Woman, but more importantly, this is the Brazilian Wonder Woman of Yara Flor. Thank you. I'm terrible with these kind of names, but Yara Flor, she's a Wonder Woman that I'm not super versed in, but by the end of the issue was blown away by. I love this character. She meets up with somebody else, a small gal who talks in red bubbles, and she's tied to the Force, but I'm not fully understanding exactly who she is. I was wondering if she is not the... You know how Swampy is the guardian of the green? There's a guardian of the red. And I was wondering if this is her. Because she seems to come up to Wonder Woman when she's like about to cut like a rhino's like horn off and like go into the underworld and stuff like that. And she's like, stop doing that. And I was like, oh, is that the guardian of the red? So I'm kind of not fully sure as to who that character is. But liked her too. She's definitely a good sidekick. Meanwhile, this Wonder Woman is... Okay, we need to discuss this. If you think the regular Wonder Woman is pretty brazen in when she throws a punch and when she chooses to like throw a kick and do something, Yara is that times 10. There are moments in this where she is like charging forward and into situations where she shouldn't, and it just works. It's a really fun character, a very gung-ho Wonder Woman, more gung-ho than normal. Wasn't bored at all. I reached the end of this and I felt like I had read a graphic novel. There's so much content in this. The art, my God, the art. Oh my God. As far as books are concerned this week, I'd say The Eternals was probably, in my opinion, top tier of all the art this week. But this is a close second. Do not skip on this. Not at all. It was amazing. So we will have that. It was great. Here's another Eternals cover with old Icarus on it. I don't know why I had more than one copy. Next is issue number 16 of Stan Sakai, and we're talking about Usagi Yojimbo. Now, this centers around a Tengu, which is it's like a Japanese goblin that knows how to sword fight and are the best sword fighters in the world. And Usagi had actually met him in previous generations of storylines and had cut off his hand. And the guy had said, I will come back one day to claim your hand in place of my hand. And that's where it picked off. But Usagi had trained with him for years. So part of the reason Usagi was such a good swordmaster was his original trainer and the new sensei. So yeah. It goes from there. Usagi's going to get caught up in a war of the Tengu, which involves, oddly enough, werewolves. You can't tell from the cover. So it's great. It's great. It's Sakai just basically saying, I built this giant mythos and I'm going to keep expanding on it and keep expanding on it and keep expanding on it. not bored. And again, if you really have to sort of have an Akira Kurosawa type addiction like I do, or an addiction to TMNT to really, really love Yasagi. But I think you could jump in anywhere on this line and not be bored. So, yeah, we've got it. Next is the Aliens variant, and that is Venom. And God, that is the most beautiful variant of all the Aliens books this week. Oh, man, is that beautiful. We have so much to talk about. We have been confirmed through Iron Man Doom crossover and through the last issue of Venom that Eddie Brock is dead. Dead. Not just died for a few seconds, gonna come back. No, he's dead. And this picks up after that. There's not much I can talk about in this. I will say his death in the last issue of Venom, I said was like it played out like a Shakespearean play. It was one of the most beautiful issues I've ever read, not just of Donny Cates, but just comics in general. It was really well told. The dialogue was perfect. It was just amazing. The art was amazing. This is great. The twist at the end is mind-blowing, is it not? Cam, you read it already?
Yes.
It's so good. That last page is really, 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 really good. And there is more than one twist. There are 2 giant twists in this issue, so don't skip it. But I can't, in good conscience, talk about any of this without ruining it for you. So just go pick it up. That's all you need to know. Go pick it up. If you're a Venom fan, there's 0 chance you're bored. If you're a Venom fan right now, you are living the high life. You are just walking on heaven every day because, God, it's a good time to be a Venom fan. Next is another Aliens variant. Not as strong for me because these Iron Man comics are all done by Alex Ross normally. So even though I think this is another Ross, is it not?
No, I think it's Jung.
Oh, it's Jung? Okay. So, like, his covers right now are just masterpieces. So seeing anyone else, like it's still pretty good. I mean, it's an amazing cover, but it just doesn't quite hold the candle to Alex Ross. My 2 cents. But what about the issue? Well, there's a lot to unpack here. Iron Man's putting together his own team here that's not the Avengers, and is the weirdest combination of teams I've ever seen. We're going to spoil a little bit and talk about this team. First of all, we've got Misty Knight. Misty Knight, haven't seen her in a minute. I love everything she's in because she likes to throw punches and likes to be to the point. Love her as a character. There is a certain spider that has died like a million times. I thought was dead currently. Is part of the team. Another new character that I'm pretty sure is a first appearance that I don't remember. Does anyone else remember Frogman? This is a man in a furry costume. I'm not kidding. This is a man in a furry costume. And Gargoyle, I don't know who Gargoyle, I don't care. He does look like Gargoyle from the old Gargoyle TV series. Yeah. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him. I don't care. Frogman, though. Frogman. And the other spider that we've talked about that has died quite a few times, yes, is one of my favorite Spider-Man, regardless of how the Clone Wars event or the Clone Saga event went. He's still one of my favorites, so he's in there. What else do you get in this issue? Well, Hellcat's sort of in trouble, and we've got to kind of get to the bottom of that. Meanwhile, Tony's still trying to figure out, find the great bad. And we've got another new character. Oh, I should have touched on this character too. This character is actually deaf. So good representation, guys. And at one point, somebody doesn't know sign language. And of all the people that knew sign, it was Frogman. But that's Halcyon, Halcyon. Is that how you pronounce it? Halcyon? Halcyon? I don't know. Really cool character. Apparently is very overpowered and needs a suit to control himself. Also deaf. So good representation. But it's the wildest team I've ever seen. And it's weird. Like Iron Man's like, I need to put together a team. You're friggin' Iron Man, dude. You have the Avengers. You should have 1 million heroes at your disposal. You get Frogman? I want to know where they're going with Frogman. He is literally a man in a frog suit. So let's see where it goes. It's the week of the frogs. It was great. I laughed. Chuck, I laughed a couple times. I've had a really good time with this Iron Man run. Not a lot of people are reading it, and I can't figure out why. If you were complaining about the other Iron Man comics that were on our shelf and you were waiting for a good Iron Man comic, this is it. It's been amazing, so don't skip it. Oh, and finally, here's the main cover for Last Witch. But we've already talked about that book, so I'll just show off the main cover. It's good. And that's our show for this week. We've reviewed all the books. The future state is here. Don't skip it.
We're in the future.
We're in the future. The end of Dark Knight's death metal was amazing. Venom this week was outstanding. And my Marvel pick of this week is definitely Venom. I know. It's like a broken record. Venom comes out, and it's my pick of the week. Venom comes out, and it's my pick of the week. Sometimes it's Thor. Usually it's Venom. But it's so good. It's so good, man. That's our show for this week. Next week, are we getting Immortal Hulk next week?
I believe so, yeah.
It's probably going to be my pick of the week then, too.
And more future state.
It's either Cates or Ewing, it feels like, and more future state, yes. I'm going to go put my mask on and go right back to safe regulations, and you guys should too. Be safe. I know that there's a lot of wildness going on right now on in the Capitol. I hope everyone is safe tonight. I love you, and we'll see you next week. Finish closing everything.
You did crossover?
I didn't do crossover. It wasn't in my box. I didn't review it. Oh no. I didn't review crossover.
I'll read it. Okay, let me pick out like a few books I actually want to take home. Where's my box?